Hello and welcome to episode 325 of the Clean Energy Show. I'm Brian Stockton.
I'm James Whittingham. This week, a new generation of solar panels using perovskite layered on top of silicon is pushing efficiency of solar panels beyond 30%. That's compared with 22 to 24% for most panels being installed today. And the company behind it says it can get it to 37% by the end of this decade, which is astounding. Personally, I'm also hoping to get to 37% efficiency by the end of this decade, which would also be astounding.
This podcast runs at 20% efficiency tops. China has donated another 5,000 solar systems to Cuba to help with their current energy challenges. This while research continues to see if Cuba can someday be powered entirely by cigars.
All that and a bit more on this edition of the Clean Energy Show. Brian, welcome to the dog days of summer.
Yeah.
We've got a short show this week due to scheduling problems and my health. I still have post-surgery complications with my stomach, and we've been delayed to get our bonus podcast out, but we will be recording that at the same time as we're recording our weekly public show. Next week, we've got another full show for you, hopefully, health permitting, and then we'll be off for a week before Labor Day to rejuvenate for the grilling fall season, because it always gets tough once we get back into the fall. Yeah. So we need to freshen up here on our end.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I'm actually on a liquid diet today because I have to have one of those invasive procedures tomorrow, one of those invasive tests tomorrow.
Which end?
The not good end.
Oh, no.
Anyway, it's fine. It's a regular thing. But I just started liquid diet this morning, so I'm okay so far. But, later today, I'm going to crash.
2 weeks of that I did before my surgery.
Right, exactly.
And then after that, it was...
Yeah, I've been doing it for like 20 minutes, and I'm pissed already.
Well, now you know how I feel. So you just got back from a trip.
Yeah, very quick trip to Seattle. I went to see Sugar, which is one of my favorite bands. They haven't toured in 31 years, and they got back together, and they're doing this tour. So I decided to go to Seattle to see it. It was at the Paramount Theater, which I didn't know much about. Turned out to be this absolutely amazing venue. I've been seeing a lot of really cool theaters in the last couple of years on the touring that I've been done. So the Paramount was amazing. Massive, massive theater. They didn't quite sell it out. It's so huge. But
oh, really?
Yeah, great show. And I have a tip about ear protection. If you're ever going to go see a loud rock and roll show, Sugar is a very loud band. This is one of the things that they're known for. And in fact, Bob Mould, who's the lead singer, he destroyed his ears in his 20s. So he has permanent tinnitus from all of the loud rock bands that he's been in over the years. But anyway, the tip is, and I did a bit of Googling to sort of back up my hypothesis, was I figured I could use my wireless Beats AirPods. And I looked it up online, and other people have done this as well. So you put in your wireless earpods, and you put them on noise cancellation mode, and it seemed like a really good way to just kind of lower the volume of everything. It still felt like the high frequencies were still getting through, unlike, a lot of earplugs, you put them in and you lose all the high frequencies. This seemed to work really well. It just kind of lowered the volume of everything a little bit. Although they're so loud, my ears were still slightly ringing after the show.
Oh, no. Yeah, I bet you had good seats, too, up front.
They were up in the balcony. The Paramount, it's a weird theater. It's the first theater, like it's an old, very old 100-year-old theater, but the main floor seating can be pushed out of the way into the basement somehow. So for this show, because it's a rock show, the main floor was all standing room, and so we wanted seats, so we took a seat up in the balcony.
Oh, yeah. Good. Brian's Old Man Tips. You should have a channel.
That's right. Old Man
Between the
show.
earpods and getting a good chair.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely recommend that for ear protection. But anyway, Seattle, it's only the second time I've been there, but I'd never ridden the monorail before. So we took the monorail, which was put up in the 60s, the same time as the Space Needle. I'd never been up the Space Needle either. So yeah, that was kind of the most fun thing, was taking the monorail. It's not a very common thing. And it really just exists now as a tourist thing. Like, it's not super practical public transportation. They have a train system and bus system and everything. But I was surprised how useful it was. Like, there's only 2 stops on the monorail, one downtown and then one slightly uptown where the Space Needle is.
Right.
But it turns out there's lots of reasons to go to that area. So we ended up using the monorail twice to get from downtown to uptown, like once to see a movie, once to go to the Space Needle. And yeah, it just felt great to use a monorail as my public transit system.
Would you say it's for tourists more than locals, or how would you categorize
I think so,
it?
yeah. And because if you're a tourist, you're probably staying downtown and you're probably going to the Space Needle. So yeah, I think it's mostly tourists. But yeah, it was a ton of fun. And the driver, we sat up front once, and the driver could see we were excited tourists, so he let us ring the horn on the monorail.
Oh, what a thrill for
What a thrill.
A man of your age.
Yeah. But then the other thing by the Space Needle is Climate Pledge Arena, which we talked about on the show, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago when it was under construction. And this is a thing that, Amazon paid for a lot of it, I guess. I'm not sure how much of it. And it's, supposed to be a net zero facility. They retrofitted an old arena. And so, yeah, it just didn't go inside or anything, but it's in the area near the Space Needle. There's lots of cool stuff there. You'll be happy to know the Guess Who are playing the Climate Pledge Arena soon. This is
I'd be happy to know the Guess Who are still alive.
Well, they recently...
Let's start there.
They recently got the rights back to the name. Like somebody else in the band had the name, but Randy Bachman and Burton Cummings are the main guys in the band, and they had lost the rights to the name The Guess Who. They recently got that back. So the two of them are touring. Burton Cummings lives in Moose Jaw, as we've said before, or I don't know if he still does, but
So just down the highway.
Just down the highway from us, Burton Cummings from
less than an hour drive away, a legendary of 70s rock is dwelling for reasons I never quite understood, but it has to do with romance or something.
Yeah.
Not because, I don't know. Yeah, I guess you can sort of disappear into Moose Jaw, can't you?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't see any solar panels on Climate Pledge Arena. Did you? Did I miss that in the photo you sent me?
There's none directly on the roof, but there is some off to the side.
And the roof seems like a good opportunity.
Yeah, and it's a weird sort of pyramid-shaped roof. So, but yeah, there's a lot of Amazon infrastructure downtown in Seattle because that's their headquarters. And so they've spent some money trying to, do a few things.
Well, this podcast is supported by people who give us donations monthly on Patreon, patreon.com/cleanenergypod. And we're going to put a podcast together for the bonus podcast that gets to people. If you donate $5 a month or more US, you get a bonus podcast because we have to come up with perks. That's one of the perks we came up with, and looking forward to talking about it. We joked when we started the bonus podcast that we would use it to air our grievances.
Yeah.
Well, there's going to be a lot of grievance airing this week. I've been fighting with insurance over the hailstorm that happened on June 9th, just before my surgery. And they're going to take the leaf away from me. And I have to fight to get some money for that leaf that is more. What's happening is basically what I expected would happen, is that they would say, okay, we can't find any Nissan Leaf electric cars around here, so we're going to go to BC, where there are thousands of them. There are none here. When I see one, it's an event. There's hardly any here. You could count them on your fingers. In British Columbia, which is one of these places, these jurisdictions, this province that has an EV mandate, they had big rebates for many, many years, especially when the Leafs came out. And they forced automakers to sell a certain amount, I think, as well. But they also had used programs and trade-in programs. So you can't go by the price there because if someone had one for sale here, it would be thousands more than it would be there if they did, and they don't. But because there aren't any, they tend to sell for a lot more. So I don't want to drive a combustion vehicle, and I can't even drive a combustion vehicle because the money they're going to give me is not enough to buy a used combustion vehicle anymore. And if I can't have a combustion vehicle, I can't go to the gym. If I can't go to the gym, I can't have my health back. And it's a big, horrible loop for me. And plus, we're fighting with the insurance over the house as well. I'll get into that. Yeah. So just a few things there that we'll be talking about in the bonus podcast, as well as some clean energy stuff. So if you want to sign up, you can go to patreon.com/cleanenergypod and join the Clean Club today.
From PV Magazine, Cuba gets more solar donations from China. So this is a story we first reported on a few months ago here on the podcast. As we know, Cuba is going through terrible energy crisis at the moment. They're finding it difficult to keep their grid operational. And so this donation follows on the previous one that was back in November 2025. So there's a second delivery of 5,000 photovoltaic systems to Cuba. This is to electrify isolated rural homes and support essential services, including health centers, emergency medical facilities, daycare centers, homes for children without parental care, and bank branches. That's important because, people need to get money if there's frequent power outages. This could be a huge, huge problem. So these are kind of self-contained systems. They have 14.3 kilowatt hours of storage with each unit.
Really? It comes with storage. So
Yeah.
you can store the solar and batteries at the business or house.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And I've never heard of banks before. We haven't talked about this before. This is new. The essential, this is an extreme example.
Yeah.
This is beyond Pakistan, who has power outages and other places. But your economy needs certain things, I guess, right? Like banks. And it would be important to have power to them.
Yes, it might have been mentioned in the previous story. I don't quite remember, but these are more powerful than the previous systems. They were only 2 kilowatts, the last batch. These are 3.6 kilowatts. And the donation coincides with new regulations from the Ministry of Finance. They're trying to promote more renewable energy. So they're establishing a rate, a very generous rate of $3.30 roughly, US dollars roughly, $3.30 per kilowatt hour for electricity generated from any renewable source and supplied
Brian,
to the grid.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
that I don't get that. It's normally if you had 15 cents, which would be like a retail rate around here, that would be tremendous, to have a full retail rate, because there's a wholesale thing where the power company has giant plants and makes things, but to pay that much per kilowatt hour, I'm going to move to Cuba and set up a solar farm. I mean, come on.
It seems crazy, but I think, maybe that's the intended effect. People are going to go, wow, that's a lot of money, and hopefully set up a bunch of solar.
That's a lot of money.
And maybe that will, help stabilize their grid. So they're doing that, and as well as tax incentives for putting up renewables, and it exempts some solar systems from certain customs duties. And these rules apply to solar water heaters, small wind turbines, biodigesters, biogas. Biogas is included in this system if you're able to supply some of that electricity to the grid as well.
Wow. I just don't, you think that business people would be jumping on this? Like, it's incredible. Like, what's $3.30 divided by 15? I mean, it's incredible.
I mean, there's an argument to be made because we talk all the time about how expensive it is to expand the grid, like especially if you're building nuclear or something. Like, it can run into the billions of dollars. What if they did that around here? Like, what if they instituted a rate like that around here? Maybe that would solve all their problems.
I mean, if they did in the first world here, it would be nuts.
Yeah.
It's 22 times the amount that we might get under a good contract, which we no longer have. And that's called like a feed-in tariff, where the utility pays you to put electricity into the grid, and it's usually generous because the retail rate is a fraction of the wholesale rate is usually a fraction, and the rest is transmission. There's a lot of, money to pay for the transmitting of that, keeping up the towers and the power lines. But if that happened here, everyone, I mean, the most anti-solar person would be throwing up solar panels as we speak.
Yeah.
It would be nuts. Everyone would do it. Every business, everyone would do it at that rate. So I don't understand why it needs to be that generous.
Yeah. It does seem odd.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess for our grid, if everyone was going to put up then you really need batteries too to kind of manage it.
Yeah.
So, but that is one option, just, generous rates paid for solar.
And we're not even talking, I don't think, about virtual power plants where those batteries can be accessed by the grid when it needs it, and it would be frequent.
Yeah. And Cuba's grid is in many ways, these are decentralized type systems that, China is donating. So people can kind of run off the grid when the grid is down, because the grid is down a lot.
Right. And it's just, you would have less power demand, because these would be pretty self-sufficient if you can store that 3.3 or 3.6. I've got 3.3 on my roof, and it would do, before my EVs, it would do about 46% of my power demand at the time.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of crap here, the first world crap that we have consuming electricity here. But, that would take away that demand, and that would be good for the grid. But why not put up vast solar farms? Why not do that? Why is China just not saying, hey, here's some solar panels and cover your electricity, or at least during the daytime
Yeah.
while the sun shines.
No, that's true. I'm not sure why they opted for these smaller systems, but yeah, they could put up a whole solar farm, I guess.
All right, Brian, I've got a big story here. This is a pretty significant story in the scheme of what we talk about on the show over the years. This seems like a big deal. Tandem PV, which is one of the big solar module manufacturers in the world, says its perovskite-silicon solar panel will begin commercial sales later in 2026. This is from PV Magazine if you want to read more, and maybe you should because it's an important story. The company has already shipped its first production quality panel it has like $1 billion of people saying, okay, we're ready to buy.
Yeah.
Letters saying that we're ready to buy, which is significant.
Yeah.
The technology that these new panels are using, we've heard of perovskite since before our podcast went on the air. It was a big promise of something new. Well, they're making them. As we speak, they're making them. And they're basically adding these perovskite type of new technology on top of old technology. And it doesn't matter which old technology, because there are several of them. You can add this perovskite on top of a layer on top of the old solar panels as you manufacture them. It doesn't add a lot of weight or anything like that. I'll get to that in a second. But it uses 4-terminal tandem design, stacking perovskite layer on top of a conventional silicon solar cell. And it has produced 30.4% efficiency modules.
Yeah.
That is beyond what was theoretical a few years ago.
Yeah.
Now, they are not just making one module that would top out around 27, 29%, which was the theoretical limit. They are layering things. And the more you layer different things on top of each other, the more you can increase the efficiency. The efficiency means how much of the sunlight potential it turns into electricity. And we always thought, the high 20s would be it. That would be it for solar. Well, they've already gone beyond that, and we're in early stages here, relatively speaking. And the modules out there now are often 22%, maybe a little more efficiency. And I think ours on our roofs are older, so they're actually a little less than that, perhaps.
Around 20, maybe?
Maybe 21. So one panel or 1 square foot makes more electricity now, right?
Yeah.
Now, they're going to cost more, these panels. They're going to cost more, but overall, because you're getting more electricity than you are paying more for the panels, it actually reduces the cost of solar by a significant amount. The company believes it can improve efficiency by 2 percentage points per year. So as we go forward, it's going to get better by 2 percentage points per year and reach 37% efficiency, not by 2050, not by 2040, but by 2030, which used to seem like a long ways away when we started this podcast. Now it's just down the road. So 37% efficiency by 2030 as they are rolling on production of these. And it's going to be a slow start with when you start producing something new. But once it gets going, it's going to be incredible. The theoretical ceiling is even higher. Tandem PV cites roughly 45% efficiency with 2 perovskite layers and 50% efficiency with 3 layers on silicon. 50% from 22 now.
Yeah.
If you look at all the solar in the world doing more than twice what it does now, it's an incredible thought.
And as we know, solar panels last for decades. So imagine that improvement spread over, the next 30, 40, 50 years that these panels will be out there. It's a crazy amount of power.
Higher efficiency means more electricity from the same amount of land, glass racking, I have to put up racking, these metal structures to hold them. And that costs money. So you spend less on that and less on wiring and things like that. What I'm really excited about is rooftops, which they're not making yet. They're putting this all into utility solar, like huge solar farms to put lots of electricity. But I see a huge advantage on residential and building and rooftop because you can put more. Like what's your system rated at?
I'm about 8.6 kilowatts.
Well, think about 16. What would that do for you?
I'd be amazing.
On the same roof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've kind of
used up... cover all your EVs and everything else. And
I've
your
used up
heat
the
pump.
best area on my house. So the best way to expand would be, higher efficiency panels for sure.
And if they were the same form factor, if those were available, you could just take off, someone could take off the old ones and put on the new ones, and that would be great. As it stands, these panels are quite large because they are utility. They make these panels really big. And what are your panels each? Are they like 380 watts or something?
Yeah, it was
Well,
either
these are about
280 or 380, something like that.
these are going to be about 1,000. They'll be bigger,
Yeah.
but they'll be about 1,000 watts per kilowatt per panel.
Yeah.
Which is nuts. So yeah, 30% efficiency panels could reduce the levelized cost of the whole electricity. If you say how much per kilowatt over the lifetime of these things, it's going to be a 15 to 25% saving just on that. We know solar panels are getting cheaper, but this is a big step just with the 30%, then it gets better from there with the 30% efficiency panels. Tandem PV is targeting utility solar developers first, which account for about 80% of the U.S. market. Most solar in the United States goes to large solar farms, and about 20% of it goes to rooftops and other things. The company, smaller installations, like community solar. The company said its perovskite layer adds only a tiny amount of material, about 5 grams of liquid per panel, not per cell.
Wow.
When you think of a solar panel, it's a huge panel. It's 5 grams. So it's not adding weight, and it's significantly increasing the panel's power output with this 5 grams of liquid material that gets applied. The design is cell agnostic, meaning it can be put on anything. Like there's PERC, there's TOPCon, and HGT. There's different kinds of solar technologies out there. It can be worked with any of the three. And Tandem PV is targeting a 30-year warranty and a degradation of 1% per year, which is generally what we consider now, though there has been some studies that say that it's only, in reality, been 0.5% per year.
Yeah.
But that's not bad. That still means you have a 30-year panel that has most of its life left in it. And its latest modules showed no measurable degradation after a year of outdoor testing, which is impressive because this is one of the challenges that took perovskite so long to get into commercialization. Because it's been, I think, in the mid-teens they were talking about that, or the late teens of this century. The company expects a gigawatt-scale manufacturing in 2028. So they're ramping up now. They're going to do stuff in 2027 hard, but it will get to the gigawatt scale in 2028 and believes 34% module could be possible as production ramps up. A standard size panel reaching around 32.3% efficiency could produce 1,000 watts. So that's a standard size panel that they have now, potentially changing the economics of utility scale. You have to buy less land. You have to lease less land if you do the same amount of electricity, which is just phenomenal. And once that happens, Brian, we know how these things take off even more. And solar is on fire now. Wait till this improved technology gets out there in a couple of years at mass scale. Solar is already one of the cheapest ways to generate electricity. But as we try to replace fossil fuels across the world's electricity grids, we're going to need an enormous amount of additional generation. And if solar goes from 23% efficiency to 30 to 32 really fast here, you're going to get a substantially more electricity from essentially the same physical footprint. So more electricity from the same land and lower balance of costs of putting it out there, cheaper electricity as we save 15 to 25% just from this technology, and should lead to faster grid decarbonization and less pressure on transmission and infrastructure per megawatt hour. More energy can be produced from a given solar site if you need to, and you can spread those out and be distributed more if you want them to. Potentially, it could lead to faster electrification, but really, it means that the world could save itself or do somewhat better at saving itself with technology like this. It's very, very important.
All right, so moving on here from Clean Technica, we love to talk about rooftop solar in Australia, and the numbers for rooftop solar in Australia are getting so good. A lot of people are considering just disconnecting entirely from the grid.
See, this is what I see happening here.
Yes.
If they screw you over and they start building nuclear reactors that are costing the grid a lot of money and putting billions into coal to keep coal going, one day, when the solar economics come from Australia to here, Australia is the best place in the world pretty much. But when they come here, my argument is that people are going to do that. And then it's going to make electricity more expensive for other people.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then it's going to completely fall apart. Society will crash.
Yes. And, the person that this article is about, so this is David Waterworth, and he spoke to a guy named Anthony who's got his own microgrid. He does kind of say that at the end of the article. He wasn't sure if it was the right thing to do because all of us being connected to the grid is probably a good thing. It keeps, the system for everybody. But, they've been rising, a lot of utilities have been rising the minimum cost of being connected to the grid. Like there's essentially a monthly minimum usually with your solar system.
And they keep going up.
And that's how the grid still makes money from you, even if you're producing 100% of your electricity from solar. There's a grid connection fee, a monthly minimum. And that has been going up with certain utilities in Australia. So that was sort of the reason he decided to, sort of go with this system. And he's also an electronics engineer. So this is not necessarily mainstream yet in Australia. But if you certainly have a background in, electricity or electronics, that, this is maybe going to make it easier for you to do. But the principle is very simple. Solar systems in Australia, we know, are already fairly reasonable price, partly because of subsidies, partly because of the regulations that they have in Australia. So a system that could be $20,000 to $40,000 in the US is more like $6,000 to $10,000 in Australia after you get some rebates. And of course, it's generally a sunny place. That would be the problem around here. We still have these pretty dark winters with short days of sunlight. So harder for us, I think, to get off the grid. But when I'm annoyed at our grid, then yeah, I absolutely think about doing that. But, you need a lot of batteries. We need even more here. But one of the ways he made this work, so this guy, Anthony, he's actually got 3 rental units, and this is what he has electrified on his sort of off-the-grid system. But he's not using a typical home battery. He's actually using batteries from wrecked Tesla Model 3s. So he has these 2 Tesla Model 3 batteries, and those are a lot bigger than home batteries. They're about 60 kilowatt hours each. So he's got 2 of these things, hooked up to his system, and he runs these 3 rental properties. And he also charges his electric car as well. He's got an MG4 electric car made in China.
Right.
And so, yeah, he says Anthony expects the market price for those used car batteries is going to settle at $1,000 to $2,000 per battery. He paid about $2,000 for one of the wrecked Tesla Model 3 batteries, which seems very, very cheap. But he says that, the car wreckers right now, they're kind of suspicious of car batteries and they're worried about the safety of them.
So they want to get rid of them?
They just want to get rid of them. So I don't know if this kind of a deal is going to last forever, but, that's what he thinks.
Yeah.
He'll be able to get one for $1,000 to $2,000 per battery. Now, that's just the battery. That's not the type of system that can run your house, but this guy's an electronics engineer and managed to kind of, figure everything out. A Tesla Powerwall is about 13,000 Australian dollars and it's only 13 kilowatt hours. Like much smaller.
So this is 120 kilowatt hours?
Yeah, he's got
with
2
2 Tesla batteries for $4,000. Wow. I mean, if you know what you're doing, and most people don't, I certainly don't, that would be.
And he knows what he's doing, and he says that he used, more knowledgeable people when he needed some help with this. But yeah, so he just charges his renters a little bit more and includes electricity in the price of the rental, and then he just manages everything. And he basically shut off the grid connection for 2 months to test it first, where he didn't disconnect from the grid. He just stopped getting any electricity from the grid and did a test period of about 2 months to make sure that he could, completely go off the grid. And then he did. He just called up the utilities and said, disconnect me. And they did.
I'm fine, thanks.
Yeah.
Take your electricity and shove it. Well, there's going to be a Nissan Leaf battery on the wrecker market and locally, unfortunately. soon.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we could get that out there.
A very interesting story. Yeah, that's it for this week. We have no lightning round. We'll be back next week with a full show, health permitting, and you can find the Clean Energy Show on social media like TikTok, Instagram, and Blue Sky as Clean Energy Pod, all in one word. And of course, our email is cleanenergyshow@gmail.com. And if you haven't already, remember to follow us on your favorite podcast app to get new episodes delivered every week. And if you really want to help us, give us a review on that podcast app, be it Apple, iTunes, or wherever you're getting your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or, Spotify is a good one too, even YouTube.
All right, we'll see you next week, and we will record our bonus episode shortly.
And thank you to our Patreon Clean Club executive members, Green Bastard, Brent Rowley, and Tiernan. And we will see you in 7 days or on the bonus podcast over on our Patreon.
Yeah, see you later.